Mobilizing the youth and keeping up with the changing times is the need of the hour. To turn ideas into reality, we need dynamic solutions. Today, we have with us a youth leader who's been empowering education in ways that have not been done before. Nandika, thank you for being here for this interview. If you don't mind, do you mind introducing yourself and the Iksha Foundation?
Hello everyone, I'm Nandika and I'm one of the co-founders of the Iksha Foundation. So the Iksha Foundation was founded when I was around 16, and our core aim and objective is to create a green circular economy. So what I mean is what we get from our environment, we give it back. So that's our goal. And it somehow also connects with education. So it's more of providing education to underprivileged students while finding a sustainable solution. And again, so it started off with like lots of planning and just a goal. So our initial goal was we wanted to provide quality education to the underprivileged students, and to provide that and like get to that end goal, we came up with so many solutions. Many failed, then some succeeded, and then we finally have a proper process now and a functioning. And our projects span not only in Bangalore, we work in Chennai, we work in Kolkata, and we are expanding to various cities to make it a large scale project.
All right. So goals of the foundation have been dynamic through the years. They've changed. The foundation's completely changed from what it was in 2020. How was that process? How did you guys realize new visions and keep changing?
So initially, Iksha's motto is changing the world one petal at a time, and our logo is a flower with two hands in it. So hands holding the flower. So these petals, we consider them being different problems or issues. So I think Iksha does not only aim to keep one specific goal, but more like we also look at other issues surrounding it, or it's very subjective to what kind of issues are happening, and like more changing according to the times of need. So something like that. So initially during 2020, during the pandemic, we found that COVID-19 support was very vital, and there were many people who were not receiving food, employment, and they were not receiving employment either. So our project aimed at providing them basic COVID-19 support, in the sense of we provided them with basic necessities, food, grains, and so on and so forth. And we also set up a call center helpline kind of thing for the local area. So this was a very small scale project around that time. And we set up, I think this was a highlight of our project was setting up these call centers. So we spoke to the family, like post giving them these necessities and basic materials, like what kind of support they needed. Some of them were workers, daily wage workers, like they depend on the wages they earn per day. So we were trying to find jobs for them. So that was one family. Another family was a pregnant lady, and she needed hospital care immediately, and we were trying to get support for that. So we raised funds to that, and so on and so forth. So we were trying to be as helpful as possible to each case, and we specifically took care of each case that way. So that was during COVID-19. And post COVID-19, we moved towards understanding underprivileged students, and like especially government schools and so on. Like what we do realize that some government schools, they don't receive exactly the best education, but like why? So we did some field work. So we went to these government schools, spoke to the students, understood what they lacked, and that was stationery materials, notebooks. So imagine attending a class and you couldn't take notes, you don't have anything to take notes, and your parents are not ready to spend money on a notebook, right? So that was something that was very disheartening to see, actually, and also like get to understand when we spoke to them. So I think that was one of the, not triggers, I think that was our motivation to start this project. So so we took it up. I think it's been a solid 1.5 years now since we started this project. It's called Project Control S. So Control S stands for Control Save. So like we save what we can do. So Control S starts with the process of collecting books. And we started out with collecting these books, and then we would individually, with all our volunteer support, sit and segregate them. So we would try creating new notebooks from the books which are already there. So like half pages used to be like used, unused. We used to put them together and make new notebooks and then provide it to the students. There was a lot of manual labor in the sense of like volunteers. So our volunteers were all 8th graders to 12th graders and college students. So they would come and do this. So it took a lot of time. So it wasn't, I'd say it wasn't exactly not productive also. I think not something which would work for a longer period of time. So then we came up with a solution. We have collaborated with this company to recycle this paper. So we have collected around 22,000 kgs of paper so far. So we collect the scrap paper and we get them recycled, and this recycled paper is in return given to us as notebooks and stationery. So this recycled notebooks is what goes to the students. And I think one of the most important part of Control S is the factor after distribution, actually. So you have a book collection. You collect books, scrap paper from everywhere. We have a recycle process. Then post the recycle process, we go for book distribution, where we give it to all these students. Then post that, we set up these boxes in these government schools or wherever we have distributed the books, and we go back to them and collect them again post a 6-month period, so when they're done with using it. So the idea is again to create a circular economy. So whatever scrap paper we collected has become books, and these are going to the